History doesn't just live in textbooks.
It breathes in the streets, it echoes in our protests, and it shapes the very ground we stand on.
Today, we're diving deep into the American civil rights movement, not just to remember, but to learn.
What can the giants of the past teach the activists of today? Let's find out.
The fight for civil rights wasn't born overnight.
It was forged in centuries of struggle. But let's start in the mid-20th century, a time of simmering tension and explosive change.
Imagine a young pastor from Atlanta, Martin Luther King Jr., whose voice would soon shake the conscience of a nation. His philosophy of nonviolent resistance, inspired by Gandhi, became the movement's moral and strategic backbone.
He believed that love and peaceful protest were not signs of weakness, but immense strength, capable of disarming an oppressor and awakening the soul of a community.
Then there's Rosa Parks. On December 1st, 1955, in Montgomery, Alabama, she made a quiet but monumental decision.
Her refusal to give up her bus seat to a white passenger was just a sign of being tired from a long day's work. It was a calculated act of defiance.
She was a seasoned activist secretary of the local NAACP chapter, and her arrest was the spark that ignited the Montgomery bus boycott, a 381-day protest that crippled the city's transit system and proved the power of collective economic action.
These individual acts of courage snowballed into a mass movement. People from all walks of life, students, farmers, teachers, clergy, joined forces. They organized sit-ins at segregated lunch counters, enduring insults and violence without retaliating. They embarked on freedom rides, challenging segregation on interstate buses, facing brutal attacks in the Deep South. Each protest, each arrest was a deliberate step to expose the ugly reality of Jim Crow to the world. The pinnacle of this era was the March 1963 on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. Over 250,000 people gathered, a beautiful mosaic of humanity, demanding equality. It was here, at the Lincoln Memorial, that Dr. King delivered his iconic "I Have a Dream" speech. It wasn't just a dream of a distant future. It was a powerful demand for the promises of American democracy to be fulfilled, right then and there. This march created unstoppable momentum, paving the way for landmark legislation. Two key victories followed. The Civil Rights Act of 1964, which outlawed discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin, and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which dismantled the legal barriers that had systematically disenfranchised African Americans for decades. These laws weren't gifted. They were earned through blood, sweat, and tears. They were the legislative embodiment of years of marching, protesting, and relentless pressure. But the story of civil rights is not just one story. It's a tapestry woven with many threads. We must also recognize the vital, often overlooked role of women. Women like Ella Baker, who was a master organizer behind the scenes, nurturing student leaders and founding the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, or SNCC. She championed a decentralized, grassroots leadership model, empowering ordinary people to take charge. And we can't forget Fannie Lou Hamer, whose raw, powerful testimony about the brutal realities of voter suppression in Mississippi shocked the nation. The fight for rights has always been interconnected. The strategies and spirit of the civil rights movement directly inspired other social justice movements. The women's liberation movement of the 60s and 70s fought against systemic sexism, demanding equal pay, reproductive rights, and an end to gender-based discrimination. Similarly, the LGBTQ+ rights movement, which had been organizing quietly for years, burst into the public consciousness with the Stonewall Uprising in 1969. This was a protest, a riot against police harassment, led by trans women of color like Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera. They were fighting for their right to exist, to love, and to be safe. The parallels are clear, challenging unjust laws, demanding visibility, and asserting one's fundamental human dignity. So, what does this all mean for today? The struggles continue. The fight for racial justice is alive and well in movements like Black Lives Matter, which rose in response to police brutality and systemic racism. Just like the activists of the 60s used the media of their time, television, to broadcast the horrors of Selma, today's activists use the power of smartphones and social media to document injustice and mobilize millions in an instant. The names may change from Emmett Till to Trayvon Martin, from George Floyd to Breonna Taylor, but the underlying call for justice and accountability remains the same. The struggle for voting rights is also far from over. While the Voting Rights Act was a monumental victory, recent court decisions have weakened its protections, leading to new waves of voter suppression laws across the country. The lesson here is that progress is not permanent. It must be constantly defended and fought for by each new generation. The key lessons are powerful. First, the importance of strategy. The civil rights movement was meticulously planned. Boycotts, marches, and legal challenges were all chosen for their specific impact. Second, the power of collective action. No single person, not even Dr. King, could have done it alone. It was the combined force of hundreds of thousands of ordinary people that bent the arc of history. Third, the necessity of intersectionality. True justice means fighting for everyone, recognizing that racial justice, gender equality, and LGBTQ+ rights are all interconnected makes our movement stronger and more inclusive. And finally, the unyielding power of hope. In the face of seemingly insurmountable odds, these activists believed in a better world and were willing to risk everything to build it. They knew the road was long, but they kept their eyes on the prize. The legacy of the civil rights movement is not a relic of the past. It's a living, breathing guide for the present. It teaches us that change is possible, that our voices matter, and that the fight for a more just and equitable world is a marathon, not a sprint. It's a fight we're all a part of. Thank you so much for watching. If this history inspires you, please share this video and subscribe for more content that connects the past to the present. Let's keep learning, keep questioning, and keep pushing for change. See you next time.